we'll look at using DataPump to create an export dump. An export dump is a copy of data from database to an external file, but the external file is still in Oracle proprietary format, so you can't use non-Oracle utilities to read data from the export dump file. In order to create a dump file, you need to have a directory to create the dump file out to. So first we create a directory. So this is a physical directory, dump files under a physical location. Then within the database we need to create a logical directory to map to it. And we need to give permissions on this directory. Now that the HR account in the database has permissions on logical directory called dump files, which maps to a physical location here, he can use the DataPump utility. expdp help is equal to y shows you all the command line parameters. So it has a lot of options which you can use. We'll be just using the basic export facility. So we just say expdp. So this is a logical directory in the database which maps to a physical directory. And then I specify a log file name. Sorry, expdp directory is equal to dump file. The exp utility is a much older utility which is no longer recommended for use. So you should be using expdp here. Once it starts off, it starts making an estimate of what is the size of the dump file, what are the objects it needs to export. So this is the information it provides us. It provides an estimate of the export dump as 3.5 megabytes, and then it's going through all the different objects in the schema because we are doing a schema level export. We didn't specify specific tables, so that means it's going to export all the tables in the schema. And if there's any objects which are associated, sequences, triggers, stored procedures in the schema, all of those will also be exported. So here once it starts doing the export, it tells us which table it has exported and what is the size. So for every table it tells us the number of rows exported and the size of the export in the dump file. And then it tells us that the this is the location of the dump file, this is the physical location of the dump file. This sysexport schema 01 is a master table which the DataPump utility uses to track the export job. So once you start off the export job, it uses this table to keep track of the status, because a dump could be running for 10 hours, 14 hours, it could be exporting 10,000 tables, you don't know. So it just keeps track, and it allows you to disassociate from the dump. You can disconnect and reconnect anytime, and this table will keep track of the status, and once the export is completed, this table is later dropped, so it is no longer used. So here we are in this directory, dump files. That's the dump file which was created, and that's the log file. Remember, we specified the dump file and the log file in the command line. Dump file and log file. If we view the log file, it's basically just the same as what we saw in the command line output, because we were running interactively mode. So we saw everything on the command line output, but if we had run this as a bad job or we had disconnected, we would not have seen this on screen. So that's why it is captured in the log file as well. Later on, we could copy this dump file to another database and import the data into the other database, or we could selectively import certain tables with the IMPDP utility. So IMPDP utility allows us to import from the dump file specific tables if we want to. It also allows us to remap tables, schemas, table spaces, so that the imported object goes to a different location.